Hello Grace Church, it's Jamie here. It's Saturday the 28th of March and we're continuing with our Psalms of the day. Remember how we get our Psalms of the day? We take the date, so the 28th, and we add 30, 60, 90 and 120 and we get 5 Psalms that we can think about and meditate on throughout the day. Now the Psalms cover a wide range of emotions and feelings. There are Psalms of great praise and joy, and yet there are also Psalms of sorrow. And Psalm 88, the psalm we'll be looking at today, is a psalm of lament. Let me read it to you and then let's think about it. Psalm 88, a song, a psalm of the sons of Korah, for the director of music, according to Mahalath Leanoth. My Bible note says that that's possibly a tune, the suffering of affliction, no doubt a tune in a minor key. A maskil of Heman the Ezrahite. Lord, you are the God who saves me. Day and night I cry out to you. May my prayer come before you. Turn your ear to my cry. I am overwhelmed with troubles, and my life draws near to death. I am counted among those who go down to the pit. I am like one without strength. I am set apart with the dead, like the slain who lie in the grave, whom you remember no more, who are cut off from your care. You have put me in the lowest pit, in the darkest depths. Your wrath lies heavily on me. You have overwhelmed me with all your waves. You have taken from me my closest friends, and have made me repulsive to them. I am confined and cannot escape. My eyes are dim with grief. I call to you, Lord, every day. I spread out my hands to you. Do you show your wonders to the dead? Do their spirits rise up and praise you? Is your love declared in the grave, your faithfulness in destruction? Are your wonders known in the place of darkness, or your righteous deeds in the land of oblivion? But I cry to you for help, Lord. In the morning my prayer comes before you. Why, Lord, do you reject me and hide your face from me? From my youth I have suffered and been close to death. I have borne your terrors and am in despair. Your wrath has swept over me. Your terrors have destroyed me. All day long they surround me like a flood. They have completely engulfed me. You have taken from me friend and neighbour. Darkness is my closest friend. It's clear, isn't it, that the psalmist is in trouble. Verse 3, I am overwhelmed with troubles. He says, verse 4, I'm counted among those who go down to the pit. And it's clear that this wasn't a short-term thing. Verse 15, from my youth I have suffered and been close to death. And the psalmist ends, darkness is my closest friend. So are there any hints of hope, or is there any comfort in this psalm? Well, I think there are, and there's 3 things that we can take from this psalm. First of all, there's the fact that God has given us this psalm. As Christians, we know that we're not free from suffering, and in some ways we are to expect to suffer more as Christians. And God has given us Psalm 88 to help us express our sorrow in the middle of suffering. It's like God is saying it's okay to weep, it's okay to mourn when we see the suffering, when we see the impact and the effects of the fallen world around us. And so God is saying, here are some words that you can use to express your grief. Secondly, there is hope in this psalm, because even in the midst of his darkness, the psalmist is able to pray. Verse 1, day and night I cry out to you. Verse 9, I call to you, Lord, every day. And verse 13, I cry to you for help, Lord. Even in the midst of his grief, the psalmist is clinging on to God, crying out to him. We'll be thinking more about prayer and prayer in the midst of suffering tomorrow as we continue and finish our series in James. A third help in this psalm, a third element of comfort, is that as Christians, we read these psalms through the perspective of Christ and his cross. Many have said that the Psalms can be placed on the lips of Jesus, that they are words coming out of his mouth. And if that's true, this psalm, Psalm 88, is one that Jesus sung on his way to the cross. We see echoes of that, don't we, in this psalm? You have taken from me my closest friends. His friends shunned him. In verse 7, your wrath lies heavily on me. Jesus knew that as he was going to the cross, he was going to take God's right wrath for the punishment of sin. And yet the wonderful hope is that we know that for Christ, death wasn't the end. On the third day, he rose again. And so sin and death and darkness have been destroyed. And for those who are trusting in Christ, we are joined to him. And so we too know that suffering is not the end, that death is not the end, that sin has been defeated, and we have an eternal hope.